Hey, it's Dan. Before we jump into this week's conversation, I want you to know this is a special bonus episode. Ted and Rebecca Guerrero invited me onto their podcast, Intentional Serendipity, to talk about raising adults, mental fitness, and what it means to be a calm and steady dad. As we were recording, I realized this conversation is the perfect launchpad for where we're heading next with the Positive Legacy podcast. Over the next 6 episodes here, I'm going to take the themes you'll hear in this interview: mental fitness, saboteurs, being a safe place, those tiny parenting moments, and turn them into a series on family, culture, and rhythms. Not just how do I react better, but what does normal actually feel like in my home, and how do we shape that on purpose? I want you to notice where you hear yourself in my stories. I want you to notice where your saboteurs show up with your kids and where you feel a tug of, I want our home to feel different than it does right now. We'll build directly on that in the next regular episode. All right, here is my conversation with Ted and Rebecca Guerrero from Intentional Serendipity.
Stop managing behavior and start shaping the kind of adults your kid becomes. All that on today's Intentional Serendipity.
I'm Ted.
And I'm Rebecca, and this is Intentional Serendipity. And on today's episode, we have our very first guest. Ted, would you like to introduce our guest for us today?
Oh, with absolute pleasure. This is a friend of ours that we met through church, and he's someone that I have grown to really, really enjoy his perspective on life. We met through church, but we really bonded through camp. He's a coach on the softball field and in parents' lives. He's also the nicest Bostonian I've ever met. Please, everyone, welcome Dan Hayden.
How are you?
So, Dan, we are so glad for you to join us today on the show, and we like to start our episodes with a little icebreaker section that has been named by one of our listeners, Intentional Connection. So before we jump in here, are you game for a little get-to-know-you question?
Absolutely. Let's get to know me.
Yes.
So you and Ted, as he alluded, got to know each other really as camp counselors. And so I was wondering if you had a favorite camping or camp story as a kid, or maybe even as an adult. So what's your favorite camp story?
You know what? I'm gonna talk about the time that Ted and I were camping together with a bunch of 4th and 5th grade boys up at Wild Rock.
Just 1 year ago.
Yeah, that's right. And here are a couple of indelible memories from that experience. One, the smell. Okay, not only the smell of nature, but the smell of our yurt.
Yurt.
Number 2, and for those of you,
Wait, for real quick, explain to the people out there who may not be familiar what a yurt is.
sure, yeah, for those of the uninitiated, a yurt is basically a big round tent that is it's wood framed and a tent thrown over a wood frame. It's generally in some sort of circular formation, and it some days is better ventilated than others.
And with a group of how many boys did you have in your yurt?
Ted, what did we have? 10, 12, something like that?
Let's go with 12.
You're sure you didn't lose one along the way?
I can sit here and count, but you know what? It's a podcast episode. We'll just say 12.
Yeah. So number 1, the smell. I was mildly prepared for that. Number 2, really, a memory I have is the amount of patience that Ted had with these boys. And that's not to say that I was impatient, but it was very clear that one of us was a middle school teacher and the other had a career in managing soldiers instead, right? But the other,
Not a lot of experience with people not following orders, huh, Mr. Hayden?
yeah, that's right, and also smelly at times, too. So, but really, these kids were incredible. They didn't shower. And usually by the 2nd or 3rd day of camp, their lips were swollen, and so they needed chapstick every minute of every day. We had one kid.
You were very good at administering chapstick.
Yeah. And I just remember, I mean, we were very explicit, and this is the sort of biggest memory I have. We were very, very explicit. Boys, we have 10 minutes to finish packing. We're going to get our bags out of the yurt. We're going to sweep the yurt out, and then the yurt will be inspected by the camp staff, and then we're good. So here, I need you to finish packing and get your stuff down the hill into the parking lot, okay? And everybody was on board. We were cheering. We were good to go. 9 minutes later, I walk in there, and there's this one kid, and he's up on his top bunk, and he did not pack one thing in those 9 minutes or the previous 3 hours. And I looked at him. I said, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?" "Oh yeah, Mr. Dan, I'm good." And you know who I'm talking about. And yeah, he had a minute to pack, and it was quite interesting to see. I still am curious as to how many pairs of his underwear he took home and how many pairs of underwear from other boys he took home. Because he certainly took home shoes that weren't his, socks, etc. But hey, it's okay, and that's what you get when you take fourth and fifth grade boys into the mountains for a week. But it was a wonderful experience. But those are my camping memories. My family also likes to camp. My family growing up we didn't camp, which just wasn't our thing, but I loved camping despite my experience in the woods with the Army. But our kids love to tent camp. Car camping is not our thing. They want to be in the tent and they want to be on the ground. And we've been to almost every national park and state park in California.
Wow.
When we moved here, we camped at Arches and we camped at the Grand Canyon and Mount Rushmore. So yeah, camping's a lot of fun. The kids love it. Don't bring uh, don't bring smoked pork butt when you're camping around a beehive. We learned that the hard way up at Sequoia Kings Canyon. So
Oh,
That
that
sounds like
sounds
another
like
great story.
like another. Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like a whole another story for us. But maybe another time, babe. Ted? What is your favorite camping story? Do you have one?
I mean, yes, made a lot of great memories with Dan up there. I mean, so good. In fact, were those memories that I think we're going to do it again this summer, right, Dan?
that's right.
That's right. For me, my memories of camp actually go all the way back to fourth grade. I was able to go to camp all the way from fourth grade through senior year in high school. Just actually going to do a couple highlights because it comes to mind. In fourth grade, I realized how caring my counselor was for me when he told me later, when I was older, that I was conking out in chapel every day and sleeping on his shoulder, leaned over, and he did not move me. He sat right there so I could sleep in chapel. And then he told me years later, because he was also involved in youth group as I got older, that I did that. So that was a great, I didn't have that memory, but I think about the love that comes from a counselor allowing you to do that.
Yeah.
And then just high school, all the 4 years of having fun with just not only our students at our church, but we would do rivalry competitions with surrounding church youth groups. And in fact, one of those rivalry church groups includes a now friend. We were not friends in high school. We were mortal enemies, and we're now good friends. And shout out to the Christian nerd, Scott Higa. And you can check out his podcast as well. But it's awesome memories like that, just having fun, being away from home without a lot of direct guidance in terms of what to do from moment to moment. And I really think also I grew deeply in my faith through those times, being a way to explore God on my own. Babe, anything for you?
I just remember. So we were not big campers. Part of that was, I think, like Dan, my dad was in the military, and so the thought of camping did not sound a little bit too much like work. And but we did. There was one summer I particularly remember, and it was more poignant because of the circumstances than the camping itself. We were set to go to Yosemite. My dad got laid off, and the debate was, well, do we go or not? I mean, the spot was already paid for, and so at that point, it's a matter of food, and you're going to eat at home or you're going to eat when you're camping. So we went ahead and made good memories despite some financial challenges for my family at the time. So,
All right.
yeah. So, Dan, you are no stranger, obviously, to camping and leadership. You spent 23 years serving in the United States Army, and you even taught at West Point during some of that time. And now in your retirement, or maybe it's more like your second career, or maybe it's your third or fourth iteration of that, whatever you want to call this next chapter, you are now a certified Christian leadership coach. Tell us a little bit about that journey and what that means.
Yeah, thanks for that. I will tell you, I have no shame in telling people I am retired. When I tell people that I retired at the age of 45 with a full pension, they sort of do a double take, and then I tell them I was in the army and I deployed 6 times to Iraq and Afghanistan and had to leave my family, and they say, "Okay, yeah, I get it. I'm good."
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
And thank
Yep.
you for your service,
yeah,
by the way.
oh, of course, right. Um, but I like that word that you use, Rebecca, chapter, because that's the word I use, right? Is I turn to coaching to write the next chapter in my life. I had been the benefactor of coaching later in my Army career. I didn't know what coaching was. In fact, in the Army, we've got a term called coach, teach, mentor, and it's all one word, no stops, no hyphens, no nothing. And
All one run on.
that's right. Coach, I coach, teach, mentor soldiers. Okay, got it. Well, what you learn when you start to receive formal professional coach training and education is that, hey, those are 3 words and they're 3 very different things, right? You coach, you teach, and you mentor. And so
Yeah.
I got into coaching because, like you said, I taught at West Point for 3 years. I ran the largest Army ROTC program on the West Coast for 3 years, and my heart was in it. I said, I can do this. I've taught, I've mentored. All of that is coaching. And what you come to find out is coaching is a lot different, but I've enjoyed every minute of my coaching journey. And I coach through a mental fitness framework. I know we're going to get into that. And I coach Christian dads into helping them show up as calm and steady leaders at home and at work.
So you mentioned the difference between coaching and teaching, and specifically coaching Christian dads. So tell us, like, as succinctly as you can, what's the difference and why Christian dads? Why is that your target audience?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's my target audience because I am a Christian dad, right? And when I looked at
Teach what you know, coach what you know.
that's right, exactly. And coach what, and I can get into this, but coach who you used to be, right? I told you I coached through a mental fitness framework, and this was a framework that I had such a great impact in my life and my relationships with my kids and my wife, and in my community as well. And mental fitness is defined as our ability to manage our day-to-day stressors and anxieties, big and small, through a positive mindset instead of a negative mindset, right? And as a Christian, look, bad things are still going to happen. Right.
Mhm.
You're still going to get stressed. People are still going to cut you off in traffic. Your students are still not going to respond the way you want them to respond. Right. How do you want to react? Do you want to react in fear and anger? And this is a rhetorical question. Or would you like to respond through the things like the fruit of the spirit that Ted and I sang so many songs to at camp last summer, right?
Yes. More camp memories.
Right, right, exactly. And I'm not going to do the hand motions, but through love, joy, peace, patience, right? Especially as a parent too, kindness and gentleness and self-control. And that's a rhetorical question, but that's what I help Christian men with is
Mm.
identifying those negative thought patterns and helping them train their brains, rewire their brains to respond in a more positive mindset. Why Christian men? Like I said, because I still am a Christian man, but
Yep.
I was the Christian father who would come in just after a long day of work and just carry all of that work burden and stress with me, dump it in the middle of the room, and just walk away. Um, I would walk into a room and look, I had great relationships with my kids. I love them.
Yep.
They loved me. There was no doubt about it. But there were times where I would walk into a room, they would look at me, take my temperature, and just walk away. And that's just not the case anymore.
Mm.
So yeah, what's the difference? So that's why you help. That's why that's your target. Why, if you were going to briefly describe the difference between teaching and coaching, how would you succinctly describe that?
Teaching is exactly right. You have to look at the expertise involved, right? In a coaching conversation or in a classroom, who is the expert? Because in coaching, we believe that your client, your coachee, the person being coached is the expert. And it's your job as a coach to ask those insightful questions, to draw that insight and draw perspective out of them. Generally speaking, and it's a bit of a cheat code, they already know the answers. It's your job as a coach to pull those answers from them. Now, as a teacher, I would hope,
Mhm.
and I know because I'm married to a teacher and I was a teacher, the teacher is the expert in the room, right? They are the subject matter expert.
Mhm.
Whether or not you feel like you are,
I mean, the kids don't always know, they believe that, but yeah.
Nope.
that's right. And that was a question I had when I was going through faculty development at West Point my first semester. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Sir, that's okay. These are 18 to 20-year-old kids. They don't know anything about it either. Just tell them what you know, right? So that's the difference between coaching and teaching is the level of expertise
All right.
and who is the expert in that relationship.
Okay. So one of the principles in your coaching is the idea that every moment is forming who your child becomes. Can you spearhead us right into what that is?
Sure. And really, it has to do with showing up consistently the way that you want to show up for your kids. And it's not in the big moments. Yeah, sure. You're going to get a lot of good memories when you're living in Indiana and you tell your kids on video that we bought them tickets. We bought you tickets to Disneyland, and they start jumping up and down and having a good time. But you know what? It's those it's those moments where you've been walking around Disneyland for 12 hours. How do you want to respond to those meltdowns that your kids are inevitably going to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to show up consistently. When your son, when you are responsible for bringing your fourth grade son to school every morning, and he is generally running late most days, cannot find socks, despite the fact that there are 22 socks roughly right in front of his face. How do you want to respond, right? Do you want to respond by just completely losing your mind and being like, I don't care about socks, just get in the car? Or do you want to, again, respond with gentleness and self control? You still have to set boundaries, and he still has to understand it's time to put socks on and get in the car. But it's the way you show up in those everyday moments,
Right.
and showing up consistently. Consistency is what matters the most.
So, how does coaching prepare you to react better in those small and big moments? Like that seemed oddly specific. I'm going to guess that was a real life story about the socks and and a son.
Yep.
So, how does coaching prepare you for those inevitable run-ins?
I think initially I would say it doesn't, right? However, what I would say is practicing good mental fitness techniques does. But I would like to amend my initial answer. Really, as our kids grow up and they mature, as you guys have experienced, the older they get, the less command and control you ought to exert on them. Again, boundaries are still important.
Yep.
Okay. But once they start really eighth grade, freshman year, is when you really could start coaching them and guiding them along instead of pushing them or pulling them. Coaching now, you are walking alongside of them. And I'll give you an example. So you two know I've got twin daughters. They're in the same honors classes. And one day last, I want to say December, November, they took the same math exam in the same class sitting right next to each other. One of them got a really good grade, like 98. The other, almost half of that. Okay. Or a little more than half of that. So you do the math. It was not good. And she understood it was not good.
Ooh.
Now, I picked them up from school. I had to thread a pretty tricky needle, right? So I had to, A, Holly called me, told me what what the second daughter got on her test, and I took a breath and I thought in the moment, when I pick them up from school, what do each of them need in that moment? That literally the thought that I had. And so when I picked them up from school, I turned to one and I said, "Congratulations, we're so proud of you. Great work."
Mm-hmm.
And I turned to the other and I said, "How are you doing?" And she just kind of looked down and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"That was rough." I go, "Yeah, it sounds rough." And I started having a coaching conversation with her, just drawing out perspective. How well did you feel prepared? I did not feel well prepared. Okay, what did you do to prepare yourself? This is what I did. And by the time we got home, we were in a really, really good spot. But I made it very clear.
Which, by the way, isn't a long drive for you.
No, it's not. It's not. So it was, look, you can have a powerful coaching call in 10 minutes, which is what it takes. But the point is, I didn't go bonkers on her. I did set boundaries though, right? I spoke truth and grace, and I made it very clear to her. These are not our standards. They don't meet her own standards. She was not going to get her phone for at least a week until her grade improved, and no sleepovers with her best friend until her grade improved. She completely accepted all of that. And through that conversation, we came up with ways, and through the course of the next couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
we found ways collectively, myself, my wife, and her, on how to better prepare herself for her next math exam.
Yeah.
And she crushed it. She now get the 98. Now, my other daughter also got a pretty good grade, but not the 98. So there was some bragging rights there. But that's that's what coaching helps you do as a parent as your kids get older. It helps you walk alongside your kids rather than pushing them or pulling them.
What's really neat is that I hear in there that you say that you thought through what you wanted to approach the conversation with, which shows that intentionality that we're a big proponents of. And also in that threading of the needle, laid out a plan where you're raising adults. You're raising your child to be an adult. And that's another thing that we're really big on and is the, hallmark of our first season.
That's right.
Let's see if we can move into then talking about the biggest barrier not being your child, but something else.
Yeah, I'll always go back to your brain, right? And I tell my kids this all the time, and you guys have heard me speak, right? Your brain takes up 2% of your body and uses 20% of its energy. It is optimized for performance and it is lazy. So the biggest barrier to having those good communications with your kids and being able to set those clear boundaries and having them be able to accept them, all that good stuff, it all has to do with like there's a reason why I didn't just text my daughter that day and just lay into her. There's a reason why I took a deep breath and I thought to myself, what does she need the most out of this, right? She needs empathy, right? And that is because I didn't allow my brain to sabotage myself. I didn't allow my brain to react. Our brains over time have, generally speaking, more often than not, chosen the path of fear and anger and judgment and jealousy because those were very useful survival mechanisms when we were kids.
Okay.
When I talk to my clients and I say, how long have you been dealing with this problem? 9 times out of the 10, they say, since I was 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's because our brains have built neural pathways and they've built thought patterns over time for the sake of survival. Well, guess what? We have survived. We passed along our DNA. Congratulations to us. Those thought patterns are no longer useful. And so that's the biggest barrier is our own mind.
Yeah.
And what I tell my clients all the time is the good news is this. God has given us the command and authority over our thoughts and our emotions. They are not who we are.
So these automatic reactions, we have had the privilege of hearing you speak. So unpack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to explain it all because I know it's a layered
Sure.
theory, but tell us a little bit about what those pre-wired reactions, how you address them, how you identify them.
Sure. Within the framework of my coaching, we call them saboteurs. And there are 10 saboteurs. There's the master saboteur, who we call the judge. And again, these are going to sound very familiar. The judge judges you, it judges others, and it judges your circumstances. And depending on which sort of barriers you were putting up as a kid will dictate the accomplished saboteurs. And these have very familiar words like you would think of, such as the pleaser or the victim or the hyperachiever or the hyper rational, or in my case, the avoider saboteur, right? Who wants to avoid hard conversations, for whom, if you only wait till the last minute, it will only take a minute, right?
Yep.
And that was my credo. And let me tell you, my wife's primary saboteur is restless, which means she always has to be busy and always has to be doing something, right? When you marry someone who has the avoider saboteur and they have the restless saboteur, that makes for a very tricky first year of marriage. However, it was a lot of communication and a lot of tears and a lot of anyway.
Your wife made you cry? We should talk to her about that.
No, it's okay. So you've got the 10 saboteurs. Those are the negative thought patterns. Okay. I coach men on identifying where in their lives first of all, which saboteurs are the strongest in them, where they show up in their lives. And then I teach them and I coach them through mental fitness exercises. These are micro moments of mindfulness. This isn't meditating in a room for hours with a candle and you're in some lotus position, right? Nobody has time for that. These are very simple to do 10-second exercises that you can build into your day-to-day routine because and you have to celebrate catching your saboteurs, right? So when you have those negative thought patterns, celebrate, hey, I just caught it, and pump your fist or pat your back. What gets rewarded gets repeated.
Mm-hmm.
So you catch your saboteurs, you learn how to do these mental fitness techniques, and then you learn to tap into, we call it the sage brain. Really, it's our spirit-led self. Again, think Galatians 5:22, fruit of the spirit. Okay, and how to energize that part of the brain. And then in doing so, the thought process is if your mental muscles are strong enough, when those moments occur, your brain will now automatically default to, again, the spirit led self, the fruit of the spirit, rather than these saboteur thoughts and
Okay.
reactions.
So when it comes to our kids, Dan, is there a way for us to parent good enough that they don't develop saboteurs? Or is it just human nature? They're going to develop them and we can help them learn maybe earlier than us to hear those voices, identify them, call them out, and silence them and go a different direction.
Yeah, great question. First and foremost, everybody has them. There's nothing you can do to sort of stop them, right? Our
We
bodies
can't
are
perfect parent out of it.
right. We're all wired for survival in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
I get this question all the time. Your mental fitness program, does it work on kids? No, but if it works on you, how you show up will significantly impact how your kids, manage their own saboteur thoughts and emotions. So in that regard, yes. Now I will tell you that the earlier that you can sort of, again, these are thought patterns ingrained in us. These are neural pathways our brains have built since early on. The earlier you can get to it, the easier it is to make that switch from positive to negative, or excuse me, negative to positive. We don't want to go the
Yeah,
other.
don't go that way. Wrong direction.
And I'll give you an example, and this is really what brought me to working with Christian dads is, as you guys know, I have 3 daughters, 2 of them play softball. Both of them are softball pitchers. One of them, who is actually playing in a game right now, she's very talented, like, could really pitch really well, but she would struggle mentally and emotionally with that aspect of the game. Every time the ump would
Which is huge for a pitcher.
it is, right? 'Cause if you're a left fielder and you drop a fly ball, you probably have another 3, 4 innings before another ball is gonna come your way,
Right.
right? So you have time to sort of think through, "What am I gonna do next time?" A pitcher has about 20 to 30 seconds to reset and refocus mentally. And this was something that she was having a hard time doing. The scouting report was out on her. Get into her head and she'll melt down emotionally, and she's out of the game. And so it got pretty bad, and I started to work mental fitness into her pitching routine. But the key here is that she trusted me with her mental and emotional well-being to allow me to do that. And the only reason that she did that is because she saw the growth and development in me as a father in showing up again more calm and steady than I used to. I mean, it. I don't want to get give the impression that I was a raving lunatic, right? But at the dinner table, somebody drops a dinner fork, the whole world would stop until just to see how I would react,
Hmm.
right? Again, I would walk into a room, dump my stuff in the middle of the floor, and everybody would just walk out. They knew it.
Not just physically, but emotionally too, huh? You were dumping stuff in the middle of the room.
That's right. That's right. And now, so here I am. I'm building mental fitness into her pitching, and she comes back the next season, and she gave up a home run on the second pitch of the game. That would have crushed her the previous season. All she now look, she got ups you can get upset by giving up a home run. Again, life's not rainbows and butterflies, right? So she got upset, she got frustrated, she hung a breaking ball over the plate, and she paid for it. And so she got the ball back from the catcher, emotionally reset using the mental fitness techniques that I taught her, and struck out the next 3 batters on 10 pitches.
Yeah.
Came back to the dugout just bounding. "Dad, it's working." And like,
Absolutely.
"Yes, it's working." So, yes, you can absolutely build mental fitness into your kids. The earlier, the better. However, the most effective way to do it, they have to see it in you first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like your next point of connection is the foundation of influence. Uh, do you have something that goes back to where you were making those connections in your daughter's life or one of your other child's life, where you got to see that that influence come out later on?
Yeah, I didn't get to see it, but I heard the story because it was some of the first words that she said to me when she got back from summer camp. This is the same week that Ted and I were up at Wild Rock, 4th and 5th graders. The high schoolers are on the other side of camp, and we share a lake or pond or whatever they call it, right? And in any event, During that week, one of her friends was just started having a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
No idea why. Again, our brain, our sympathetic nervous system reacts to a threat, whether it's real or not. It perceives a threat and it's going to go into panic mode. And so this girl started having a panic attack. My daughter looked over at her and knew exactly what was going on. She's like, I've seen that before because I've lived it before. And she walked up to the girl who she knows very well. She goes to our church. She goes to the high school, puts her arm around her and says, "Hey, are you okay?" And the girl just sort of she's looking around. She said, "Hi, alert." She's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on." She goes, "Hey, do you trust me?"
Mm-hmm.
And the girl said, Of course I trust you." She said, "Okay, cool." She put her arm around her, walked her off to the side away from everybody else under some shade. And she led her through not only prayer, but these mental fitness techniques Dad, I did the breathing exercises. I did the listening exercises. I did the feeling exercises, everything that you taught me. And we prayed. She opened her eyes and everything was fixed. I was like, holy, like she didn't know what she was doing. All she knew was this worked for me. I think it can work for her. Right. And that was pretty cool. And the girl says, "How that was brilliant. How did you know to do that?" And she just kind of shrugged it off. She's like, "My dad taught me that." So she was super proud that, she was able to apply something that
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
had worked for her
Mm-hmm.
for one of her friends.
That's, I mean, how powerful is that? I don't know about you, but as a parent, when you see your kid able to support somebody else because they've experienced or learned a tool or that's a my kids joke about me. They'll call it my proud mom smile.
Yeah, we have a name for it.
I did that proud mom smile. That would totally make me do the proud mom or in your case proud dad smile. So as someone with a military background, militaries run based on hierarchy and control.
Sure.
And as someone who is moving to this mindset of less control, more coaching of your kids as they get older, as they become adults, how do you start making that switch? How do you model that I'm not trying to control you. I'm going to be your emotionally stable, safe place. Like, what does that look like?
A lot of trust, a lot of trust in your ability as a parent. Because you can't control everything that they do. And in it's like Star Wars, right? The more you tighten your grip, the more, the systems will fall,
Yeah.
That's Princess Leia Organa, in case
That's
you were
right.
wondering.
Oh, nice.
You're very welcome, by the
Your
way.
favorite character.
Of course.
Yeah, it's a heavy dose of trust in your parenting and trust in their judgment, which you have instilled in them, to be honest with you. And again, boundaries are still important too. They know very well, hey, you get a bad test grade, and this was pretty bad, by the way. I'm sorry, we're going to take your phone. We're going to take your, access to your friends. And she understood. She totally got it. They're getting ready to, they're very excited. You guys have already gone through this, but they're very excited to be getting their licenses. And they were shocked one day when I stopped the car down the block and I said, "Hey, you want to drive?" And they were like, "Are you serious?" And now they tease each other who's the better driver. I mean, according to one, she's pretty much already got her license, even though she's backed out of the driveway 3 times.
I was about to say they've driven 200 yards.
They're ready for their license tomorrow.
That's it. Ready for the Southern California freeways.
That's right. Yeah. The military stuff, though, I never really brought it home with me. And that's not to say I didn't bring work home with me. That's not to say I didn't. But I wasn't this kind of dad who was waking his kids up at 5 a.m. to work out. You know what I mean? You hear stories like that. Uh, th- but parenthood can be so humbling. I could be at work and in charge of 500 soldiers, and they got to do whatever I tell them to do.
Yeah.
And then I get home and a 6-year-old in a panda bear costume just basically, tells me to stuff it. Like, no, I'm not going to do that.
I would say parenting is the most humbling.
Yeah.
So how, you also talk about how the goal is to be a safe place. Where have you seen that? How have you cultivated that with your own kids? What if if a dad came to you and was like, "I'm struggling with being a safe place. Like,
Sure.
I grew up in a house where boys don't cry, right? And so they're not used to being emotionally available." How do you coach that?
All right. So what are the first thoughts? And again, I'm not asking you, this is what are the first thoughts that come to your head when you see your son crying, right? And probably and then I would point out, hey, that's probably your judge talking. You're judging your son, or maybe even you're judging your own parenting in that circumstance, right?
Hmm.
And I would try to get them to shift to a place of, hey, instead of judgment, what is the gift or the opportunity in this moment right now? The opportunity is you can show affection to your son. You can show empathy to your kids. That's one specific moment. But like I said earlier, it happens in the everyday moment. It's how you show up. It's how you present yourself. Again, one of my kids walks into the room every single time I'm in that room, and she goes, "Hey, Dad." She doesn't care what my answer is. She is just looking for my response, and she's looking to see my mindset. She's looking to see if I'm a safe space or, hey, I can't come to dad with my problems.
She's
And
measuring the temperature.
that's all she's doing. And so this is easy. Here's parenting pro tip. All you have to do is care. Okay. Put down your phone, stop watching whatever you're watching on the TV, physically turn and face your kid and say, "Hey, what's up?" That's all. Because when I do that, she goes, "Hey, Dad." I go, "Hey, what's up?" She goes, I'm good," and just keeps walking. She didn't even answer my question. She doesn't care what the question was. She's just checking to see, hey, is it safe around him right now? Right? I mean,
Right.
but if you just stay on your phone and you ignore him and you're looking down, you're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
man, what's up?" You're not engaging your kid. You're losing an opportunity.
They
So
see that.
something I see as a high school teacher so much is parents disengage when their kids get to high school.
Sure.
Because they see that as, I think there's two reasons, because I've heard it straight from parents' mouths.
Okay.
One is they're intimidated by high schoolers, right? Your wife and I, so for our audience out there, Dan's wife actually teaches next door to me. So there's lots of weird connections between our families that were developed even before we really knew each other. But parents have literally directly told me that they are intimidated about being on a high school campus. Like, I've been told so many times, and I'm sure your wife Holly has heard this too, like, "I can't believe you teach high school. They're scary." And the other thing I think that parents do is they disengage because they think that's a way of empowering their kids, right? I'm not controlling. I'm going to just
Sure.
disassociate in some ways because that's empowering my kids. Like, what do you say to those parents? How do you encourage, coach them, challenge them in that?
Yeah, there's a difference between showing interest and caring and being intimidated and disengaging. You have to be involved in the lives of your kids. Now, you don't have to hover over them and look at every single grade that comes in every minute of the day. I cannot imagine. This is just an aside, okay? And kudos to both of you. I cannot imagine if I were a teacher and every time I input one silly grade into a system, it popped up on a parent's phone, and that parent had an issue.
I've seen it. I felt it.
Right. You're right. The access to information that parents have is incredible. We ignore it. Now, when we were kids, you had test scores, and you had, if you were in my high school, you had a report card that was printed out on a dot matrix printer.
Yep.
And you could barely tell the A minus from the A plus, but that's okay.
Dan is aging us right now, by the way.
That's right. And that's okay.
They weren't handwritten.
A dot matrix printer, but no, I'm teasing. They weren't handwritten. Oh,
There's a balance between I only care about the grades when they're final, and I care about every single grade that's input every minute
Yes.
of the day. Okay.
by the way, side note, parents, you can turn that feature off. I don't know
In case
every
there's an
single
accident.
grade program out there. Like I have, like our high school, Dan, right?
That's right.
I could literally be updated each time a teacher inputs a grade. I'm like, who has time? I almost think we have made parenting harder by giving them too much information, so
Yep.
they're reacting
Yes.
to these little
Yep.
micro changes that mean nothing.
Things that happened in our lives when we were kids that our parents never knew, but didn't kill us.
Sure.
But our parents are updated every second.
Right. But so, yeah, so, there, it can be intimidating. It could be people can disassociate. So the balance, how do they get to that balance? What's the coaching mindset that they need to get to find that balance?
That's a great question. again, the first word that comes to my mind is trust, right? I know it's hard to trust teachers. Um, I trust the teachers, trust the system in which you are educating your kids, um, and trust your kids. But um, you know, I don't know. I have to go back to, why are they intimidated by a high school environment? Okay. Well, I don't wanna psychoanalyze because I am not a healthcare professional. I am not. No, that is not what I do, but, I'll go back to where are these saboteur thoughts coming from? Because they were built over time. Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
And again, recognize them in the moment. That's the best thing they can do. "Oh, boy, I'm get" whatever phrase you wanna use, "My saboteurs are barking at me. I'm getting triggered." Recognize that in the moment and choose a calmer response.
Okay.
Um, it's okay to care about your kids' future. It's okay to care about your kids' environment. Um, it's okay to walk alongside them. Again, you're not pushing them, you're not pulling them, you're walking alongside of them. You're not letting them go off and do good and wonderful things on their own because they need you. They still need your guidance no matter what they
Hmm.
tell you or what story they try to
Yeah.
show you in words
Yeah.
and deeds.
That's good. It's a good reminder that even when your kids are pushing you away, sometimes that's not actually what they really want or need
That's right.
deep down.
Talking about that control too, Dan, are there some common signs of control that we might miss?
It's funny because the controller is one of the saboteurs, right? He's one of the accomplice saboteurs.
Okay.
And in all of the men that I coach, the controller saboteur is always in their top three. And one of the first questions I ask, and when we start this mental fitness program, because I do it in cohorts, and I say, whatever age your kids are, subtract that by 5, go back that many years and tell me, or add 5, excuse me, and then add 5, go back that many years. So if you've got a 10-year-old kid, go back 15 years. Do you think the controller saboteur was dominant in your mind? And every one of them says, no, probably not. Right. And
Hmm.
that controller is there for the sake of safety, not for you, but for your kids. Right. And it serves a purpose because boundaries are still important. We're not going to let our kids run down the driveway looking after a soccer ball, into a 4-lane highway. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Okay. You can still pull them back by the collar and control them that way. And I'm not sure if that fully answers your question, Ted. In fact, I kind of forgot what it was, but
That's all
Yeah.
right. He teaches sixth grade all day. He's used to that happening.
that's right. What,
That's okay. It
Mr.
sounds like
G,
you
what
did.
did you say?
Yeah, no, just talking about those.
What are
those
we doing,
common.
Mr. Guerrero?
I will repeat myself for the 7th time. It is on the board, but I will repeat it again.
Okay. I think I remember the
just,
question.
just like
A lot of it has to
the
do with,
common signs of control
yeah,
that we
yeah.
might miss.
A lot of issues have to do with time, right? Getting out the door on time, whether it's for church or school. A lot of it has to do with, you know, I see a lot of parents in my capacity, with rec league softball, trying to push their kid in one direction or another. Um,
Wow.
Wait, I'm sorry. Sports parents expect their kids to all become D1 athletes with
I
scholarships?
didn't know if you knew this, but
That is.
UCLA is recruiting our 8U division right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For reals?
I.
Yeah, 8U rec league softball in Rancho Cucamonga. They're
Wow.
there, I promise.
I.
Just ask the parents.
Oh, I
Okay.
thought you were being serious. I was like, and this is what's wrong. No,
Yes.
That's right.
but right, that you see it in that capacity. So you were saying like where do you see that where people don't even realize that they're trying to control their kids through that?
At least with the men that I work with, a lot of the control comes from having this compulsion to, be on time for everything. And I get that. Look, I spent 23 years in the Army. Okay. Time means something to me, right? Honoring someone's time means something to me. Being on time. If you miss movement in the Army, it's a very bad day for you and everyone around you. Okay. I get that. Um, but and I'll bring it back to this. I'll bring it back to getting ready for school story with our son. Okay, we were running late, and I give my kids grace, but I also give them time hacks. Hey guys, we gotta load up in 10 minutes. Okay, okay. Hey guys, 5 minutes left. Okay, and let's make our way to the door. Okay. Well, we're now 3 minutes late, and I'm yelling up the stairs, Billy, and I'm starting to tense up a little bit. Billy, hey, buddy, we got to get going. Hannah's in the car waiting for us. I gotta call at 8. We got to get out the door. Okay, all right. And he comes running down the stairs. I just have one last thing to do. And I'm sitting there thinking, you don't have one last thing to do. The last thing you need to do is get out the door and into the car.
In the car. Yeah.
Okay. Bill, what is that? He always has one last thing to do, by the way. What is that one last thing? Dad, I got to see if my Crocs will fit the dog.
Wow. I was not.
Okay.
That's one more thing to do for
That-
sure.
It is critically important, I can tell.
So the controlling parent in me would have just lost my mind and said, they don't fit the dog, get in the car right now. Okay. But the calmer and steadier parent in me closed my eyes, understood in the moment, I should not react in this moment. Do not do it, because the long-term damage that you could have on your relationship with your son is untold.
Yep.
Stop, pause, take a deep breath, open your eyes. I did that. I opened my eyes. He had already realized the Crocs don't fit the door. He was in the car.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a long breath either, I promise. But
It didn't take a long time to figure out the Crocs do not fit the dog.
Yep.
that's right. Or the dog is very averse to having Crocs
tried
on
on
her.
him.
I'm gonna
right.
guess that played a little bit into it. Meeting your dog before,
Yeah.
or any dog, by the way.
But again, when you have that urge to control, again, boundaries are important. But when you have that urge to control, little moments like that, and those moments happen all the time, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's so many opportunities to just immediately respond when those do pile up in a kid's mind, and they now go like, "I got to check the temperature
That's
in
right.
the room."
Yeah. Just pause,
Mm-hmm.
take a breath, and respond. Don't react.
So, how do you see faith combine with mental fitness in your version of raising adults?
Sure. And I'll talk a little bit about the coaching that I do. I received all of my coach training and education through an organization called Coach Approach Ministries,
Mhm.
whose mission it is to expand and express the kingdom of God. And when I'm asked this all the time, you're a certified Christian leadership coach. What makes you a certified Christian leadership coach?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I'm certified through CAM. Why? Because I did all of the training and education that ICF requires for them to give me a certification. Cool. What makes it Christian? Because in our coaching conversations, okay, whether you are a believer or not, in our coaching conversations, I believe there are 3 people present in that conversation at all times. It's me, you, and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is absolutely a part of our conversation and guiding our hand and guiding my questioning and guiding your responses. That makes me a Christian leadership coach because of the coaching principles that I use. When it comes to mental fitness and finding that intersection of faith and mental fitness, now the mental fitness program I coach through is very secular, and in fact it brings in some sort of Eastern meditative practices as well, which sort of rubs some Christians the wrong way, and that's okay, because I'm able to take it more from a Christian principle and explain to them in sort of biblical terms. Hey, look, this also have roots in the Bible. This is work that I've done over the course of the last 15 months with, I'm not going to lie, with the help from everything from ChatGPT to a couple of pastors, at our church.
Yeah.
And so that's where I bring the faith in it. You've heard me use faith language before, right? You've heard me say, hey, would you rather respond with fear and anger?
Mhm.
Galatians 5:22 is great, fruit of the spirit. What people don't ever really talk about is Galatians 5:16, where it talks about all of those unseemly things that, that are also a part of our thought patterns, that Paul says, hey,
Yep.
you ought not think of these things, right? That's Philippians. But anyway, you get the idea, right? We want to respond through the fruit of the spirit. And praying during a coaching call, using prayer, integrating breath prayers into mental fitness reps. And I told you that my daughter did all of the mental fitness exercises with her friends, and she closed in prayer. Prayer is another very powerful form of mental fitness as well.
And personally, how have you found faith to give you your identity and purpose?
It's really we don't need to get into my faith journey now, but it's come to mean everything to me.
Okay.
I had, and you guys have heard my story, and it's not for for this time. I had a very, very difficult
Mm-hmm.
transition retirement from the Army. I did not end my career the way that I thought I would or the way that I would have liked to have. This was even before I discovered mental fitness. And, people would check in on me and say, "How are you doing? How are you holding up so well?" And there was no secret to me anyway. That event in my career coincided with me finding my Wednesday morning Bible study group at our church. Right. So I joined a growth group out of just, I don't know what prompted me to it. Maybe it was, the pastor up that day telling me to join a growth group. So I went on the phone, joined the Wednesday morning group, and I could see Holly sitting next to me, nodding in approval.
Hmm.
And a couple of months later, my professional life just completely collapsed and fell apart. I would not have been able to get through that with grace and without my faith. I knew in the end, he's got me. There's nothing, um,
Yeah.
and so it was really my faith that brought me through it. People would call me all the time, "How are you doing this?" And I said, "I'm doing fine because, he's got me and I'm going to make it through just fine." And I just had an undeterred faith that everything was going to work out by his will, and whatever his will is, it's not ours. It's not ours to question, but ours to accept.
At the beginning of our conversation, Dan, you told us you coach who you used to be. So, what's, if you had to summarize that transition, who have you become in Christ and how has that impacted your parenting?
I would like to think um, I have become a stronger reflection of him
Mm.
in my parenting. Can still remember the conversation I had with my brother-in-law when our twins were born. And he said, "Now, you love these kids." I said, "Yes." "You do anything for these kids?" "Yes, I would." "Okay. Can you just imagine the love that you have for these kids multiplied by infinity?" And I said, "No, I can't, because the love I have for them is endless."
Hmm.
And he said, "That's the same way that God sees you."
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was 15, almost 16 years ago. And I'm still and it's not, again, it's not out of imposter syndrome. It's not, I'm not running away from anything. I'm running towards something, and I'm running towards that vision of fatherhood and of parenting. And so I hope that I reflect that, and I've been able to use both mental fitness and my coaching and my faith in order to reflect that back onto my kids. Again, I don't know too many at the time 13-year-old girls who are going to allow their dads to help them with their mental and emotional well-being in any aspect of their life, let alone, something like softball. But
Hmm.
it's those relationship I now have with my kids, vice what I think it could have been. If I didn't live out the faith, and I didn't live it out again with a more positive mindset, um, I'm not sure what that relationship would be. It certainly wouldn't be, those relationships certainly wouldn't be as strong or as calm. Look, we still have disagreements. Okay. My kids still don't like it when I tell them, "No, you can't do this thing." Right.
What? Your teenagers don't magically always agree with you?
Believe that or not.
You haven't found that magic elixir.
"Dad, can we stop for Wendy's? It's 3:30 in the afternoon." "No, we can't stop for Wendy's." That's a tough one, let me tell you. That's
Yeah.
a hard one for them to anyway. But I think that's, I hope that answered your question, Becca. It's
Yeah.
I reflect, yeah, I would like to reflect that.
That's fantastic. Well, Dan, this has been an awesome conversation with you, sir. Um, it
Yeah.
was- but if people are interested in your coaching or your podcast, we will put the details in the show notes as well. But how about you tell us right now, how are some ways that people can get a hold of you? What should they be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ted. And Becca, and thanks for all this time that we've spent together. I know we've spent, hours, talking about stuff like this. And I was super excited when you guys were doing this, when you said, "Hey, we're going to do a podcast." And I was like, "That's going to be awesome." And I've listened to every episode, and um, you guys are someone that, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, my wife and I look to you is to see how it's done right. You're one of a handful of couples that we know, that we're close to, that we say, yeah, let's see how they've done it, right? And listening to your
Well, thank you, sir.
podcasts,
Thank you.
I'm going to give myself a pat on the back and say, we didn't even know it, but man, we've been doing things right, you know,
Excellent.
for the most part, right? Because we're not perfect. We constantly remind our
Neither
kids,
of
as
us.
I'm sure you do too, we are all doing
And your kids will
right.
remind
Yes.
you too from time to time when
Yeah,
you're not perfect.
constantly
Okay.
reminding our kids, we are all doing this for the first time. We do not know what we're doing. Okay. Whether we're intentional about it or not. Um, so anyway, I'm sorry to get back to, hey, how to contact Dan, right? I've got a podcast called the Positive Legacy Podcast for Christian Fathers. My
Yes, you do. It's a good one.
That's right. It's stupid proof, right? Who does it speak to? Who's your audience, and what do you provide, right? Um, all of my contact information will be in the show notes. The podcast is the best way to sort of get to know who I am and what I do and how I do it. Coach Dan at fya-coaching.com for my email. And I won't give you my website because it's got a weird word that has a Z in it, but it'll be in the show notes. I'm on all the socials, so love to hear from you. Love to hear your stories about being a not so calm and steady father and how I can help.
Well, Dan, we are just so blessed to have you and Holly as friends in our life, and we are super excited to be able to share what you offer with our audience on today's episode. So thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Well, Rebecca, for our very first guest, we brought in a wonderful speaker and someone who came with some heavy hitting shots. What's cool is I've seen that overlap between our concepts of raising adults and the way that we were incorporating without even thinking about it, being intentional, using the word as a guidance, and with referencing the spirit, the fruit of the spirit, very, very touching and thought provoking there.
Yeah, I think the one, like I taught Dan's idea of mental fitness, and I mean, there's a lot about what he does that I wish I had heard earlier in our parenting, but even one silly way that we would apply it is how many times when I was going to lose my cool did I put myself in timeout.
Yeah.
We didn't use timeout with our kids so much, but Mom was put in timeout.
Yep.
More than once.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It was good self-control.
Very much. You didn't have to agree that much to it, babe. All right. Anyhow, as we wrap things up here, we would love for you to email us to keep the conversation going. If you have something to add to the show, questions, you can email us at that's intentional serendipity, podcast mailbag at gmail.com, podcast mailbag at gmail.com. And what's coming up next, Ted?
Well, coming up next is Raising Adults, in that season of and mindset that were mistakes that we made, so you don't have to. Speaking of how there's no such thing as perfect parenting, we're coming with those. And don't forget to throw out some questions to our kids if you might have them have some for them, because on a future podcast with the summer coming, we might be getting a chance to talk with our kids and bringing them on the show.
I mean, we're gonna have him even if we have to bribe him.
Yes,
I'm just gonna
absolutely.
lay it on out there, and they can air more of our dirty laundry. So multiple episodes, we're going to talk about our imperfect parenting, the mistakes we made, and our kids can tell you all about them.
Brutal honesty.
So brutal honesty. I had a colleague who used to say, "There's no such thing as soft truth; it's all hard truth."
It is.
So there
Fantastic.
you go. So success and happiness are not guaranteed.
But there are habits and steps you can take to increase the odds for both.
This has been Intentional Serendipity.
May your week be full of joy and purpose. And until next time,
Bye now.
bye.
Hey, it's me again. If you're still with us after that interview, there's something in you. If you're still with us after that interview, there's something in you that cares deeply about more than just behavior. You care about who your kids are becoming and the kind of home they're growing up in. In the coming weeks, we're going to take this further with a 6-part series on family culture and rhythms. We'll move from, I don't want to blow it in the moment, to, we are slowly becoming a different kind of family together. We'll talk about when your home feels like it's just surviving and how to start shaping culture. We'll talk about when rules aren't working and how to give your kids values they can actually feel. We'll also talk about when siblings won't stop fighting and how to teach them repair instead of just refereeing. And we'll talk about screens. We'll talk about when screens or schedules run the house, how to design simple, sage-led rhythms that hold you steady. If you want to go deeper, you can always reach me through the link in the show notes or by listening to more episodes of the Positive Legacy podcast for Christian fathers. For now, as you think about what you just heard, what's one small way you want normal to feel different in your home by the end of this summer?